अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मैं हूं आपका होस्ट सलीम बिन मोहम्मद रफ़ी और ये है मेरी यूट्यूब चैनल। टुडे आई एम गोइंग टू bring up a subject which concerns most of us when we look at the inventors who have made our life easy, and we look upon them with great pleasure, with great admiration because of their contribution to mankind. Thomas Edison is one such person on the 18th century who gave us a DC current and a light bulb. And he is known for this. What bothers me is that when you dig up history and find really the real pain and the real inventors which have helped mankind far more than few names which are stuck with us because they were passed on to us from generation to generation, and we have started to believe that they were the original inventors of such things. When we look back into the history and are honest with ourselves as a education, uh, a, a scholar, and a qualified person should be, we have to be true to ourselves. And I think academic dishonesty is inexcusable. And one finds it more and more when we cross centuries and we find such events far more than the one which I am going to highlight to you today. This one is just a fraction of the problem, and this will probably touch the surface of the depth of this dishonesty in our academic contributions and what we have been led to believe that who were the real inventors and what happened behind the scenes is never discussed, perhaps because it is so painful and it is full of human suffering and our prejudices against other religions, against other nations. You will find history full with the contributions of Muslim scholars, which have been particularly ignored, which have been particularly masked, which have been particularly buried, and intentionally. Now, here in the example, which in this video I'll go to highlight and prove my point is to you, is that ultimately the truth comes out. Time in history is not exactly the time we see and we find and we measure through our calendar or day and night. The time in history for century is very short. Now, if we believe that the Edison was the one who gave us electricity, and he is the one who gave us the light bulb, we obviously are led to believe this, and many generations believed that this is true. But when you will watch a video which I am going to show you today with my this introduction, is that you will find that how there have been people who cheated, the people who deliberately, I think, tortured those people, stole their research and took credit for something which they failed to do themselves. How they were cruel to their own species and how they did not care, how ruthless they were. When you find in the academic world such cruelty, such dishonesty, such disregard for the truth, then you can imagine that what on earth is going on in all those great big monuments, all these big universities, all those big institutions which we look upon with great respect. I think this is an area which has to be further explored, and someone has to do a complete in depth study or postmortem of these inventions and the people who have been decorated falsely and they have enjoyed all the glory for something which they actually earned at the expense of the misery and suffering of other human beings. I'll take today in this video the subject of war of currents. Edison had obviously he had found out and introduced direct current to us, which had many problems in its distribution, in its storage, and its use. He had a person working in his lab, a person from Croatia, Tesla, not known to many people in the scientific world. He gave him a job in his lab. How he asked and promised him to pay $50,000 if he would come up with a solution where the current could be uh, better, not a direct current, but an alternate current or AC current as it is known today as used world over. Very few people know the actual inventor of that current because of this academic dishonesty, because of this behind the scene corruption, and which is widespread. Unfortunately, when we look at it, there is no foolproof security or protection. We can patent and register patents, but it's easy to steal or buy those patents, and it's easy to mask and cheat and put another face on it as in inventor and who carries all the pomp and show and glory of being the original inventor. I see the same thing in the Western researchers, the people in mathematics, in astronomy, in space, in measurement of Earth planet. All these original work was carried by Muslim scholars, by Muslim scientists. But you will hardly find a reference in day to day scientific books or journals or in when you search in uh, Google search engines or other such search uh, uh, facilities or libraries which provide this service or claim to provide this service honestly. Unfortunately, they are not. They are full of bias, and the information they are providing is full of prejudice. And if in a scientific world such a thing can happen, imagine this happening in politics and happening in our day to day life or in our pursuit in our business and industry. It is despicable and disgusting to see this thing in highly qualified and intellectuals indulging themselves in such a dishonest behavior. The story of war of currents, which I am going to show you with this video, will emphasize clearly what I am trying to convey to you. Can anything be done about it? Should we do about it? Should we be honest with ourselves? Would this hurt if we are honest? Or would it make this world much better, much kinder, much safer, much just? Why can't we do this? It's easy to preach and it's easy to advocate, whether it is in mosque, it's in a church, or it's in synagogue, or it's in mandir, or it's in any other Buddhist or shrine. But what about practicing it? What will matter if we recognize the contributions, the original contributors of Islam, the Muslim contributors, the Muslim physicians, the Muslim astronomers, the Muslim mathematicians? What would be wrong in that? It's the same way when you exploit the fellow scientist who is of the same religion. And the guy in this from Croatia was a Christian, a poor man working in the lab, and how miserably he died, and the years and years of agony and anguish, and all his money lost. But look what a gift he gave us. He gave us an AC current, an alternate current. But what happened to him? At what cost? I myself, as a teacher, I myself, as a former vice chancellor and a doctor and a surgeon and scientist, I feel ashamed when I look at it, my fellow colleagues, and to be in the family of those people doesn't make me feel proud. In fact, I'm saddened. I'm really, really, really hurt. And it started to make me suspicious of many inventions, many discoveries, that what is actually the truth about the discoverers. How much of that is really told to us and is true to believe. So this shadow of doubt, which is placed by not few, and one of them I am just highlighting here, that how Edison did to a fellow person, or I'm sure there are many others. This video, I hope the other who are listening and watching my video, they will come out with this, and they will either add to the knowledge of or other scholars and other institutions where basic research is carried out.
The tragic story of Nikola Tesla. He died alone and penniless in a hotel room. He suffered from several breakdowns. He was cheated and betrayed. Without him, there would be no electricity. Thomas Edison did everything to destroy his career. This is the tragic story of one of the greatest inventors in history, Nikola Tesla. Early life. Nikola Tesla was born in Croatia in 1856. He was a child prodigy with an exceptional photographic memory. He studied engineering in Austria and moved to USA in 1884 with 4 cents in his pocket and a bundle of clothes. He met Thomas Edison, who was already famous for inventing the light bulb. Edison gave him a job at his lab, where he worked diligently. Edison's system of DC power was very fragile and broke down easily. One day, Edison promised Tesla that he would give him $50,000 if Tesla came up with a workable solution. Tesla took up the challenge and put in all his efforts for months. He came up with an efficient solution to Edison's problem and asked for the promised money. Edison denied him the money and said he had only meant it as a joke. He neither got the money, nor any credit for his work. Feeling betrayed, he quit the job. He did petty jobs like digging ditches for $2 a day to survive and work on his ideas. The War of Currents. Tesla started working on AC power, the alternating current. Edison's DC power could travel in a single direction. Tesla's AC power could periodically change its direction and distribute electricity over large distances. Many investors laughed off his idea and refused to invest in it. One day, the wealthy inventor George Westinghouse accepted to invest in Tesla's project. Thus, began the War of the Currents. The AC power made its debut in 1891. It illuminated the Chicago World Fair and paved way to a modern era. Edison aimed to destroy his career. He began distributing pamphlets to Americans, scaring them about the dangers of AC power. By then, Tesla and Westinghouse had already taken USA by storm. Edison's tactics failed. Tesla saw the power of Niagara Falls and planned to harness it to generate electricity. In 1895, he realized the plan and built the first modern power plant. This is how Tesla had the last word and emerged a winner in the War of the Currents. Yet, more people know about Edison today than Tesla, to whom we actually owe our privilege of electricity. Final years. In the same year, Tesla's lab caught fire and burned away most of his research notes. He worked on several projects backed by a financier called J.P. Morgan, but their funds ran out and Morgan withdrew his investment. He bagged more than 30 patents to his credit, but was snatched of several more. With very little money left and no home, Tesla was forced to live in a small hotel room. He spent his final days in severe depression, alone and poor. He died in his hotel room in 1943. He said, "Money does not represent such a value as men have placed upon it. All my money has been invested into experiments with which I have made new discoveries enabling mankind to have a little easier life." Tesla's AC power remains his greatest gift to mankind till date. We all bear witness to it.
Or they will put up their own findings, and maybe that would discourage this really a very dangerous and very dishonest practice. Now, with this little introduction about the dishonesty in academics and quoting you the war of currents, I will prove my point, and the end of this video, after you have watched the video which will follow my this little introduction, that how we are, how cruel we can be,